Albion Online just released a new dev talk, and we are going to receive one of the biggest updates in a while. And I'm talking about corrupted dungeon maps, I'm talking about new crystal weapons, roads rework, and we're going to talk about the quests that are coming to Albion Online. And we're going to react to the video that was just released a couple of hours ago. Here we go, Albion Online. Let's do it. Here we go.
Welcome to another Albion Online Dev Talk. Today I'm thrilled to introduce our next update, Paths to Glory, coming in July 2024. The
July 2024, Path to Glory is the name of the update. Here we go.
update derives its name from its key feature, the Albion Journal. The journal challenges...
The journal. Okay, so for the longest time, Albion Online didn't really have any quests. When you get spawned in the world, you do the tutorial. That's basically it. The game doesn't really tell you what to do, when to do it, and what are the rewards of doing it. Now, people will call this not a quest. It's a journal. But what I would say is, if it looks like a chicken, if it barks like a chicken, if it walks like a chicken, if it tastes like a chicken, it absolutely is a chicken. So basically, this is the version of Albion Online's quests. These are quests. If you look at this, we have PvE activities, economy, gathering, exploration, and even PvP. So there is an incentive now for you to actually progress. Now, this is work in progress, right? This is work in progress. Looking at the rewards, they're absolutely doo-doo for now. I want to say this right here. Finish a solo dungeon of every faction. Unlock 10 chests in solo dungeons. Obviously, this is solo dungeons. Roaming mobs. I wonder what PvP would be like. Would that be like ZVZs? Definitely ZVZs. 1v1 in the Mist, Corrupted Dungeon, Slayer. And what would be the rewards? Individual rewards look like crap right now. Look at this. Finish 3 solo dungeons with a map. A tier 6 silver bag. Again, crap. But we're going to look at the big ones.
Players to take on increasingly difficult tasks in different areas of Albion's gameplay.
Look at this though, the economy. Completing a certain number of missions, right? Buying items, selling items, refining, crafting, city plots, even city plots, dude. It's insane.
And receive unique rewards to show.
Look at that! Unique rewards, they mean skins. Look at this cat-looking Swiftclaw skin, I'm assuming. It's either a Swiftclaw or a direwolf. Looks really good.
Their success. There's quite a bit of content to go through for the journal, and we have plenty of other topics to talk about today, so the details will be covered at length in our next Dev Talk. What else do we have in this video then?
What else?
Well, with Paths to Glory, we try to focus on including specific community requests you made in comments to our recent Dev Talks.
Okay, so this is, right, one of the things that all developers in all of the games in the entire industry should do, and a lot of them have already been doing it. Albion, unfortunately, doesn't feel like one of them until now. Listen to community feedback. Your community plays your game for like good chunks, especially streamers, good chunks of their day, per day, every week, every month. So they would have a good knowledge of like what features, what things need to be done in the game. And I'm really glad that Albion Online actually is listening, actively listening, and actively acknowledging community feedbacks from, well, the community. The acknowledgement part really is key.
And while we're still working on many of them, there's a number of community-inspired features that already made it into this update.
Let's go.
First up, we're allowing guilds to own multiple islands, one per royal city.
Now, I don't know why this is, but guild island per city, similar to personal islands per city. I'm not really familiar with maybe like bigger guilds who have or are stationed in multiple cities, but most of the guilds are stationed in one specific city. They only need one guild island, but
we've taken
maybe
the
for
opportunity
bigger
to
guilds.
introduce city-specific looks for each guild island So now you'll
Look at
have a snowy
beautiful.
island for your guild in Fort Sterling, or lush forest if you're based in Limehurst.
Let us pause. Let us pause. Did you guys get that? Did you guys get that in chat? Listen carefully. Did you guys get that?
Island for your guild in Fort Sterling, or lush forest if you're based in Limehurst.
It's pronounced Limehurst? Who knew it was pronounced as Limehurst? Every single player I've known for the past 4 years calls it Limehurst. Here we go again.
Island for your guild in Fort Sterling, or lush forest if you're based in Limehurst.
Limehurst? It's called Limehurst. Everyone was dead wrong. It's called Limehurst, ladies and gents. Whoever calls it Limehurst now, from now on, should get stoned to death. Limehurst. All right? We call it Lime. We don't call it Lim, we call it Lime now. Limehurst.
Another frequently requested feature included is the ability to overcharge twice.
Okay, this is cool. This is cool. This was one of the things that we tested because I think several months ago, someone said you can just overcharge twice and it will extend your overcharge ability. This is actually really, really cool. The overcharging twice makes it so that you don't have to retreat or go back to city because your overcharge is about to break. You can just overcharge twice.
In order to prolong the overcharge duration at a higher risk of breaking the item after the total period. This should help the ZVZ community in prolonged fights.
Yes. ZVZ usually is around 30 minutes because of the overcharge when they do overcharge. But most fights, sometimes especially like raids, now last like an hour. So being able to overcharge twice with the risk of breaking your weapons or items twice as well from 15% to 30% is actually, I would say, it's a good trade-off.
While leaving the rest of the game mostly unaffected. A nice little change is the ability to use all spells on tier 4 weapons, taking an unnecessary complexity out of the character build system and opening up more gameplay variety with lower tier weapons.
I actually hate this. I do not think this should be implemented in a way that it is going to be implemented if they're just going to unlock all of the skills that are available at tier 4. That makes it so that there is no benefit for going up to tier 5, up to tier 6, unless you're actually doing hardcore modes like high tier ZVZs, high tier Mist. There is no incentive to now go to higher tier. Because as a Fire Staff user, I would bring a tier 6 Fire Staff, the one-hand Fire Staff, because I have the ability to use the Q3, which is, in my opinion, in most solo PvP, the best Q ability for most scenarios. Now, if I were given a chance to just bring tier 4 and still have all of the abilities, I do have the specs, I do still have to grind for the specs, but if I have the specs and I bring tier 4, I would bring tier 4 because it's cheaper. Now this makes way for tier 4.4 awakened weapons. Instead of me bringing tier 6, tier 7, tier 8, I would rather bring a tier 4 weapon, right? A tier 4.4 weapon, awaken it with extra health, extra ability damage, maybe extra IP, maybe lower cost to energy. I would rather have that because 4.4 is insanely cheap to awaken. It's insanely cheap to get the stats rather than going tier 8. Now, this would be good if they adjust the benefits of going from tier 4 to tier 5 to tier 6 to tier 7 to tier 8. Now, if they do that, let's say tier 4.4, you have all skills unlocked. Yes, but tier 5 gives you a 10% mastery modifier. Tier 6 gives you maybe a plus 20, plus 25, plus 30, plus 40, plus 50, giving us an incentive to actually go for higher tiers, not just settle for 4.4 or just 4.3 because every skill is unlocked. Now, there is an issue here that I can see if they don't do that. It will become like the block system, where tier 3 blocks are more expensive than tier 4 blocks because tier 3 blocks are more used than tier 4. We don't want that. Similar to how back then where tier 6 sigils were the least expensive, it's less expensive than tier 5 and tier 4, which doesn't make sense. So I think they have to do more than just giving us all of the skills in the tier 4 and give us more incentive to go tier 5, tier 6, tier 7, tier 8.
Also at a community request, we're introducing a party ready check function. This helps party leaders to see when their group is ready to set out into the world of Albion or tackle the next boss in the dungeon.
Yeah, ready check, good quality of life improvement.
Other improvements include the introduction of corrupted dungeon maps, 3 new activity events for roads, mists, and tracking, and better filtering options in the rankings.
It's wild. It's wild that Robin just went through all of those 4 changes, didn't skip a beat when talking about corrupted dungeon maps. All right, let's give this one more time.
Include the introduction of corrupted dungeon maps.
They are finally introducing corrupted dungeon maps after 3 or 4 years. Better late than never. I love it. Corrupted dungeon maps are coming to Albion Online. But it's so crazy to me that Robin just said, corrupted dungeon maps, next activity, next that, as if it's not one of the most requested features in the game. But hey, that's just me. Thank you so much. Corrupted dungeons maps are coming to Albion Online. No more spending 5 minutes roaming around trying to find a freaking map, trying to find a freaking dungeon just to get into the battle. Corrupted dungeon maps are coming to Albion Online. Let that soak in a little bit because Robin just blew through it less than a second. Corrupted dungeon maps are coming to Albion Online.
3 new activity events for roads, mists, and tracking, and better filtering options in the rankings.
Okay, so 3 new activities coming to roads, mists, and tracking. I don't think they talked about that, but we'll see.
We've also significantly improved the usability of the Destiny.
Yes! When I saw this, I was laying down when I was first watching this video. I actually stood up. When I saw this. Yes, please. The ability to zoom out and actually see all of your nodes is so good. It's so good. You no longer have to just be limited to a certain section, scrolling through, swiping through all of the things. You can now see at a glance what you have.
Destiny board by rescaling it and allowing you to further zoom in and out on the desktop version.
I mean, why stop there? Just give us the entire board, you know? Let us zoom out entirely. I know it is less than ideal because in smaller screens, you barely can see anything. But the ability to zoom out all to see the entire thing, I think would be a nice improvement, additional improvement. But this is actually really great. This is great.
Our most requested topic, and the one we spent the most of our thought and energy on, was improving the roads of Avalon.
Okay.
This posed quite a challenge, however. We didn't have a whole lot of specific feedback to go on, and what we had was in vastly different directions. So we took some time to analyze the data and think about the topic. Our data showed that the activity, both PvE and PvP in the roads, was higher than it has been for a very long time. But at the same time, many of you complained that you weren't finding the content you were looking for.
Okay, so I think the data might be misleading. You can say that there are a lot of PvP and PvE activities happening in the roads. Yes, the data might show you that. But at the same time, is it because there are so many road maps that, yes, there are some PvP, there's some PvE, but they never really meet each other because there's just way too many maps? And the data will show you that, yes, there are a lot of activities, but those activities, those players don't really interact with each other. It's more like very, very safe. But we're going to let Robin talk about this.
This was a challenge for us because it told us many of you are looking for a completely different experience in the roads than what they were designed to be.
Okay, let me pause there. People are looking for content in the roads that they're not designed to be. That is the disconnect between the developers making the game and the players playing the game. The developers developed and created the roads for a specific activity, and then the players came in and they were like, oh, we want to do this. But the devs were like, oh, that's not what it's supposed to be. And there's a disconnect there.
An extension of the open world, creating connections between places and offering opportunities for small groups, but not as an action-packed instant content like the Mists. Finally, we came to the conclusion that we're going to continue to see the roads of Avalon as what we intended them to be.
So they are basically saying, we want the roads to be the way that we design, not the way you want to play it, is what they're saying here.
We still see the need for an accessible, action-packed, small group-oriented feature, but we don't think the roads are the right place to offer it.
Maybe they'll create a new instance where it's more compact, smaller groups PvP, and more action PvP-wise in the future.
Therefore, we've decided to improve what we have for the players who are already enjoying it. And here's what we're changing. We're standardizing the tiers of all mobs in specific road sections to make it easier to know whether you're in the right place to find the content you're looking for. Next, we made sure that Tier 4 roads are primarily found when entering from the blue and yellow zones, while entering from red and black zones typically gets you into a Tier 6 road directly.
There you go. That is good, because whenever you have, whenever you go to a Tier 4 zone in a blue zone, yellow zone, and you get spawned in like a Tier 6, it's always going to be contested. I think I like the idea of black zone and red zone, because they are lethal zones, gets you to a higher tier guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to roam in the black zone. You go in and it's like, oh, it's Tier 4. Well, like, let's get out of here. Let's look for another road. At least in the red zone and black zone now, you are going to get at least Tier 6.
Tier 8 roads are now exclusive to deep roads and raid clusters.
Okay, so Tier 8s are now deeper. Deep roads and raid clusters. That is good because it will funnel people in, hopefully. Because Tier 8s are obviously sought after. They have like good resources. They have good mobs, good PvE. And if you go deep into the roads, if you are one of those that actually want to go PvP, you might see more action in these deeper roads than in the past.
Talking about raid clusters, we've increased the quantity of these specific clusters to make sure hideouts in the roads connect to these more frequently, but we've also sprinkled in a few connections to these from non-hideout clusters to increase competition in them. Next, we took a look at the reward balancing and content distribution. We've reduced the amount of spots dedicated to gathering, but we've increased the respawn rate of resources accordingly, so the total output remains the same. We've used the space gained to add additional PvE spots, which we've also rebalanced, slightly bringing down their fame rewards, but increasing their loot rewards to ensure the roads are not quite as powerful for leveling as they were, whilst hopefully making them more competitive with other forms of loot generation.
Okay, so there you go. So lesser fame in the roads now, more loot in the roads, so hopefully the more loot part will bring more people in, not just those crappy 4.1 nature staffs that are just there for power leveling. It would actually bring more of like a small group because the loot is going to be better. The fame is not going to be there. So hopefully those who go into the roads are there for the loot and hopefully ready for PvP, rather than those who are just in 4.1s trying to level up their weapons.
One more piece of feedback we want to react to is the lack of content in the roads. To address this, we've brought tracking into the...
This is not the content that we were talking about. I think when people talk about content, they are mostly talking about PvP content. It's not that, oh, there's no tracking in the roads. It's not that, oh, I need more, PvE action in the roads. When they're talking about road content, I think most players refer to it as PvP rather than anything else, but that's just me.
The roads, and while we were at it, we also introduced one more rare tracking mob.
This is like the most difficult, I think, group dungeon or solo dungeon hard gold boss. It's defeatable, but It's difficult to defeat.
Hunt down for loot. Additionally, we're introducing a key new feature to the world of Albion, activity-based spawn rates. What
Perfect.
this means is that we will make a profile of each server by measuring the activity at each point in time. We will then adjust spawn rates for resources, mobs, and treasures, as well as their upgrades based on this activity profile.
Okay, so this is one of the good things about listening to the community, right? This is basically, they say, if there are more players, more resources, and more rewards are going to be added in the game. Now, that may bring more content, more PvP content, because if you see at prime times, you see that you get millions more from a gold chest or from a medium chest in the open world. You want to contest it more. So that's going to be more PvP, more loot from the chest. And hopefully, for all of our economy players out there, that means you get to sell more to the black market, hopefully.
This means that during the server's prime time, you should have an easier time finding content than you had before, whilst players hoping to exploit the low activity times for massive rewards will find them more scarcely.
So there's also the other side of the spectrum. Those who play in non-prime times, you are going to see less rewards. You're not going to be able to go like, okay, this is a non-prime time. All of my rewards are going to be double, triple because no one's here. All of the resources, all of the loot, all of the silver is going to me because I am playing on non-prime time. That's no longer the case. Prime times are going to be prime times now.
We're making sure not to go all out with this adjustment, so oftentimes we'll still see a little more content per player, but the amount of content will certainly be better matched to the player activity.
Okay, so there you go. So they're not going to go all in on this just yet. Look at this as it's a little bit of nerf on the low end, but a huge buff on the high end.
All in all, these changes are an iteration on the concept of the roads, not a revolution.
Okay, it's an iteration and not a revolution. I think that is a very important thing to note, that players who are looking for big changes in the roads are not really going to get it. They are going to be a little bit more different. They're trying to still stick to their guns, saying that roads were built for this type of content. Roads were supposed to be for this type of content, and they're leaning heavily towards that rather than actually maybe making it more PvP centric.
We'll observe how they affect the way the content is played, and we'll continue to think about a new way to offer more reliable, small-scale PvP content, which we believe many players were asking for when requesting improvements to the roads.
Yeah, that's definitely it. The small scale PvP content is the most requested in the roads because they want that 7v7 kind of thing. You bring 7, you bring another, you find other groups with 7 and just fight it out the roads, and then you go out. I think that was the main goal of the suggestions that everyone actually wanted for the roads. But maybe they'll bring out something in the future because they're leaning heavily towards saying that's not what the roads are for.
Finally, of course, this update also introduces the next batch of crystal weapons.
Let's go.
The all-new...
Wait, the next batch of crystal weapons that we cannot craft when the update launch. We'll have to wait 3 more months.
New Twin Slayers, a pair of crystal daggers which can create a ring of spinning blades that can be recalled back to the caster, cutting through all enemies in their path.
Okay, so I don't know where that is going to be used for. I'm thinking small scale and PvE, right? Group dungeons, Avalonian dungeons, potentially if they have high enough damage. But you never really see like daggers in group dungeons because most of the time there's single target. Unless it's like Demon Fang or something, but I don't know where you can see this, but I would say small scale. Ooh, you know what? It could be for ZVZ as well. Look at this. So look at how he...
A pair of crystal daggers which can create a ring of spinning blades that can...
There you go. It can be recast.
Be recalled back to the caster, cutting through...
Recalled to the caster. So this could be a ZVZ thing. Because they can just double cast. Ah, I just missed that.
Create a ring of spinning blades.
What if you just ring and then ring again, double cast? Maybe a delayed teleport. A delayed teleport would be nice here. Into a clump? Ooh. Or maybe even stalker shoes? Maybe double stalker shoes. Get that damage. And then EE into a clump? With a dash on the dagger as well? Ooh, this could be nice. This could honestly be nice, a double E. Because when I first saw this morning, I was like, oh, you have to move.
To the caster, cutting through.
You cut through all of that, but like you have to move. But no, you can just double E. Ah, Q stacks, dash in, maybe stalker shoes again, double stalker shoes, and then EE could be nice.
All enemies in their path. The Dreadstorm Monarch, the new crystal maze which can use its Eye of the Storm ability to create a growing storm around you, slowing enemies and shredding their resistances. And
ZVZ, oh my god, imagine the ZVZ content.
Around you, slowing enemies and shredding their resistances.
Oh my god, shred resistance as a tank and slow? Exciting stuff, dude. Bro.
And finally,
exciting stuff.
The Exalted Staff, the new Crystal Holy Staff. Its unique ability can remove enemy ground areas, like Sacred Ground.
Okay, so it removes puddles, basically. It removes anything on the ground. It has, right now it's a 20-30 seconds cooldown. We'll assume that. It heals, because look at this. It does actually heal as well. This could be really good, but like, I'm thinking, how many do you bring, though? Crystal Holy Staffs do you actually bring to get rid of Sacred Grounds?
Can remove enemy ground areas, like Sacred Ground.
Because it doesn't cover a lot of ground there. It doesn't actually cover a lot of space. But I guess if you can just create a singular path, especially in a choke, where all of your DPSs, all of your supports can cast their abilities without being silenced, I guess 1 or 2 is like going to be more than enough. But I am interested to see this.
These 3 weapons will be available in the upcoming season's Conqueror's chests. And remember, as we're introducing these weapons over time, the total amount of artifact items dropped in each season's chest goes up, while each specific artifact becomes more rare. That means these chests are becoming more valuable.
They should do that. They should forego that. They should just give us shards in weekly Conqueror's chest, because it is getting a little too stupid when it comes to the rarity of these crystal weapons. Yes, you are introducing 3 new weapons every 3 months. Yes, that's exciting, but there's also a delay of 3 months before we can actually craft it. And then when we craft it, it's so limited to a point where tier 4.3 is like 500, 600k. It doesn't even really make sense anymore. They are introducing new weapons lines, new weapons that no one can use. At least not the majority can use. They cannot even test it out. So just give us Conqueror's chest, the weekly ones, the tier 8 ones. Give us an ability to get small amount of shards here and there. Not artifacts. Just give us shards to replenish all of the weapons that get destroyed in a full loot PvP game.
With each season, until we finished with the last set of crystal weapons. As you can see, the update is quite packed with features and adjustments, and we haven't even mentioned the visual reworks of scythes and quarterstaff base animations, and the many balance adjustments coming with the update.
Okay.
We also haven't gotten to the heart of the update, the journal and the unique rewards.
Look at that. Look at that. SBI has always been really good. SBI's art team, always S+ tier. Almost always. They bring out a new skin, it's amazing. Almost always. And bringing it to rewards or journals, I'm assuming it is going to be locked behind premium. It should be, in my opinion, to just drive more revenue into the game. They're awesome. Look at that.
You can earn by completing it. So don't
oh
miss
my
our
god, a
upcoming
cat!
Dev Talk, Well, we cover these in depth, and of course, we're hoping you'll join us for the release of Paths to Glory in July.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. All right, Albion Online's July 2024 update is a huge one, and I'm excited about it. Corrupted dungeon maps, also, that's all I care about. Really good though, really good with the journals, with the free skins. Well, no, they're not free, but you have to grind for the skins. You have that big man trying to carry you, and the cat is amazing. They have new crystal weapons, but corrupted dungeon maps, and Limehurst. Freaking Robin dropping a bomb on us. Limehurst is the pronunciation of that green faction. So screw everyone who has been calling it Limehurst, dude. It's called Limehurst. That's the biggest. Really, that's the biggest thing. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.